Have you ever noticed that no matter how much comfort or security you have, there's always a part of you that wants more? Maybe it's the urge to create, to achieve, to push beyond limits you never thought possible. That invisible engine driving your ambition, your creativity, your very essence of becoming, is what Nietzsche called the will to power. Contrary to the simplified notion that humans are driven by survival pleasure or moral codes, Nietzsche argued that our deepest, most fundamental drive is the pursuit of power, not in the sense of controlling others, but in mastering ourselves, shaping our environment, and transcending our limitations. The will to power is not about greed, conquest, or tyranny. It's about the innate urge within every human being to grow, to stretch, and to express one's full potential. When you feel compelled to create a piece of art, solve a challenging problem, or step into an uncomfortable situation that promises growth, that is the will to power manifesting itself. It is the hidden force behind every human innovation, every scientific breakthrough, every act of courage, and every personal triumph. Nietzsche observed that life itself is a dynamic force that constantly seeks expression. In other words, living beings are not just passive participants in the universe, they are active, striving, becoming. This striving is the essence of the will to power. What makes this concept revolutionary is that it shifts the perspective of human motivation. Most philosophies and moral systems emphasize obedience, adherence to rules, or avoidance of suffering. Nietzsche, on the other hand, saw these as suppressions of the natural human drive. By bending to external norms and limiting beliefs, we inhibit our inner force, resigning ourselves to mediocrity. Those who ignore or repress this drive often experience frustration, a persistent sense of unfulfillment, and a lack of direction in life. Conversely, recognizing and channeling the will to power allows us to transform challenges into opportunities and ordinary existence into a life of achievement and purpose. To truly understand the will to power, we must first recognize that it operates on multiple levels. It is not only a psychological concept, but also a philosophical framework for understanding life itself. At its core, it is about self-overcoming, the constant effort to transcend limitations, conquer fears, and evolve into a higher version of oneself. Nietzsche described this as a process of becoming a lifelong journey where one continuously seeks to grow, redefine one's values, and assert one's individuality in the face of societal pressure. It's not a static achievement, but an ongoing process, a perpetual striving that never ends because there is always a new peak to scale, a new boundary to overcome, a new facet of oneself to discover. Consider the difference between someone who simply follows a safe, predictable path and someone who embraces their inner will to power. The first person may achieve stability and security, but often at the cost of their deepest potential. The second person, guided by the will to power, is willing to face discomfort, uncertainty, and even failure in pursuit of growth. This is why Nietzsche celebrated individuals who dared to live authentically, who were unafraid to challenge conventions, and who transformed their inner drives into meaningful action. Think of artists, scientists, entrepreneurs, or philosophers. Those who reshaped the world were, in essence, expressions of this unstoppable force striving for mastery and impact. Nietzsche also emphasized that the will to power is inherently creative. It's not about domination in the narrow sense, but about the creation of new possibilities. Every act of self-expression, every pursuit of knowledge, every innovation reflects the exercise of this force. When you channel your energy into personal development, creative endeavors, or ambitious goals, you are participating in the natural flow of life, asserting itself through you. Suppressing this drive, therefore, is akin to denying the core of one's existence. It's like keeping a fire smoldering under a wet blanket, instead of letting it illuminate the world. On a practical level, understanding your own will to power begins with self-awareness. Observe the situations that energize you, the challenges that excite rather than intimidate you, and the ideas that compel you to act. These are not random impulses. They are signals from your inner drive nudging you toward growth. Learning to listen to this internal voice and taking deliberate action in its direction allows you to harness its full potential. It transforms passive ambition into purposeful effort, ordinary talent into extraordinary achievement, and mere survival into a meaningful, empowered life. Furthermore, Nietzsche's concept teaches us to embrace life in its raw, unfiltered form. The will to power thrives not in comfort, stagnation, or dependence, but in engagement with reality as it truly is, unpredictable, challenging, and full of opportunities for self-assertion. It encourages a mindset that views obstacles not as threats, but as fuel for growth, setbacks not as failures, but as lessons, and limits not as endpoints, but as thresholds to surpass. By adopting this perspective, you begin to cultivate resilience, creativity, and an unshakable inner strength. In summary, the will to power is more than an abstract philosophical idea. It is a practical framework for understanding human motivation and unlocking the latent power within your mind.
It calls on us to move beyond societal conditioning, embrace our inner drives, and transform our lives through conscious effort and self-mastery. Every challenge you face, every ambition you pursue, and every act of creation is an opportunity to exercise this innate force.
By recognizing and channeling your will to power, you set yourself on a path toward personal growth, authenticity, and the realization of your highest potential. Once you begin to understand the will to power within you, the next challenge Nietzsche presents is even greater: breaking free from the herd. He observed that most people never truly live according to their own instincts or beliefs. Instead, they absorb the values of society. What's considered good, what's considered evil, what's considered success. They follow these norms without ever asking why. Nietzsche called this blind conformity the herd mentality, and he believed it was the greatest enemy of human greatness. For Nietzsche, the will to power cannot fully awaken inside a person who is enslaved by the opinions of others. When you conform to social expectations, you silence the voice of your own potential. You trade authenticity for acceptance and freedom for comfort. The herd mentality makes people obedient, predictable, and safe. But safety has a hidden cost. It kills the possibility of becoming who you truly are. To unlock your mind's power, you must confront this invisible prison and begin the journey of creating your own values. Creating your own values doesn't mean rejecting everything society stands for. It means questioning it. It means asking, does this belief make me stronger or weaker? Does this rule help me grow, or does it keep me small? Nietzsche saw morality not as fixed or universal, but as a human creation that should evolve with strength and awareness. The weak cling to collective values because they fear isolation. The strong have the courage to stand alone and build their own truth. That courage, to think for yourself, to decide for yourself, is the highest expression of the will to power. Throughout history, every person who shaped the world had to defy the herd. Artists who refused to follow trends, scientists who challenged the beliefs of their time, thinkers who questioned authority. They were all, in Nietzsche's eyes, examples of the higher type of human being, those who live by their own light. This doesn't mean arrogance or rebellion for its own sake. It means creating a life guided by inner conviction rather than external approval. When you live this way, every decision becomes an act of strength. Every risk becomes an affirmation of your individuality. Nietzsche warned that the herd offers comfort, but comfort breeds weakness. The herd praises obedience, but obedience suffocates creativity. And yet, leaving the herd isn't easy. It means facing loneliness, uncertainty, and sometimes even rejection. But this is exactly where growth begins. Just as a seed must break its shell to sprout, a person must break social conformity to evolve. The pain of separation from the crowd becomes the birthplace of authenticity. You stop asking, "What do people expect of me?" and start asking, "What does my power demand of me?" When you create your own values, you shift from living reactively to living intentionally. Instead of following inherited definitions of good and bad, you build your own compass. This internal compass guides you toward what strengthens your spirit. It makes you self-reliant, confident, and unshakably grounded. You no longer need validation because your worth comes from within. This is what Nietzsche meant when he said, "Become who you are." It's not an invitation to invent a fantasy version of yourself, but to strip away everything false until only your genuine essence remains. The will to power thrives in this authenticity. When you stop imitating others, your creativity expands. When you stop chasing approval, your confidence deepens. When you stop following the herd, your energy returns to you. You begin to see that most people are trapped in cycles of imitation, competing for approval that has no real value. But the individual who dares to think independently, who has the strength to say no to conformity, starts to live a life that is truly his own. To overcome the herd mentality, Nietzsche suggests a new kind of courage, the courage to be misunderstood. The courage to act according to your convictions, even when no one else understands. This courage transforms fear into strength and confusion into clarity. Each independent thought becomes a declaration of power. Each authentic act becomes a step toward mastery. Slowly, you stop existing as one of the many and start existing as yourself. When you live by your own values, you become the author of your destiny. You stop reacting to the world and begin shaping it. You stop chasing trends and begin setting them. You realize that real power doesn't come from controlling others, but from mastering yourself. And in this mastery, you find peace, not the shallow peace of comfort, but the deep peace that comes from knowing you are living your truth. In Nietzsche's philosophy, this is how the mind unlocks its highest potential. By daring to leave the herd, by choosing independence over imitation, and by creating a life that reflects your inner strength. The will to power is not just a drive to rise, it is the courage to stand alone. Once you begin to live by your own values, the world will test you. Nietzsche believed that this test is not a punishment. It is the very path through which your will to power grows stronger. Life, in his view, is not meant to be easy. It is meant to challenge you, to confront you, to shape you. Every difficulty you face, every moment of resistance, is the universe inviting you to rise above your old self. Without struggle, there can be no evolution. Without pain, there can be no transformation. Nietzsche rejected the idea that happiness should be our ultimate goal. He believed the pursuit of comfort makes people weak, while the embrace of struggle makes them powerful. When you run from pain, you run from growth. When you seek only pleasure, you deny yourself the chance to expand your limits. The will to power thrives on friction. It needs obstacles to push against. Just as muscles grow through resistance, the human spirit grows through challenge. Each hardship you face is a chance to strengthen your will, sharpen your focus, and deepen your understanding of yourself. In Nietzsche's world, the strong individual is not the one who avoids suffering, but the one who transforms it. To him, suffering is raw material, a force that, when mastered, can be turned into wisdom, resilience, and creation. He once wrote, "What does not kill me makes me stronger." These words are not about ignoring pain. They are about using it. Every failure, every heartbreak, every loss has the potential to elevate you, if you face it with courage. The moment you stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What can I learn from this?" you begin to harness your will to power. Think about the greatest achievements in history. None of them came from comfort. Every innovator, artist, or philosopher who changed the world faced immense resistance. They were criticized, doubted, and rejected, but they continued to move forward. Their struggles became the fuel that powered their greatness. Nietzsche believed that those who embrace difficulty instead of avoiding it rise to higher forms of existence. Through struggle, you discover your endurance. Through pain, you discover your potential. But embracing struggle isn't only about external challenges. It's also about the battles within. Every person carries fear, doubt, and weakness. The will to power urges us to confront these inner shadows, not suppress them. When you face fear head-on, it loses its control. When you confront doubt, it transforms into clarity. This inner confrontation is what Nietzsche called self-overcoming. the process of becoming stronger than you were yesterday. You stop being defined by your past failures and start defining yourself through action and courage. Nietzsche saw life as an endless process of becoming. He believed that those who refuse struggle remain stagnant, while those who welcome it evolve endlessly. This is why he admired the human spirit's capacity to endure. He saw in every challenge the possibility of rebirth. When you accept struggle as necessary, you stop fighting reality and start flowing with it. You begin to see obstacles not as threats, but as invitations to expand your will. The storm that others fear becomes your training ground. The will to power is not about domination, it is about transformation. It is the fire that burns away weakness and reveals strength. Every time you choose to persist rather than give up, to act rather than complain, to grow rather than retreat, you are living Nietzsche's philosophy. The struggle becomes sacred because it is the only thing that forces you to evolve beyond your old limits. You stop wishing for an easy life and start preparing for a meaningful one. In practical terms, embracing struggle means changing your relationship with pain. Instead of seeing it as something to escape, you see it as feedback, a signal that you are growing. The discomfort you feel when you take risks, face rejection, or step into the unknown is not a sign of failure. It's proof that you are expanding. Nietzsche would say that the greatest tragedy is not to suffer, but to never push yourself far enough to suffer meaningfully. Comfort is the slow death of the spirit. Struggle is the pulse of life itself. When you align with this mindset, you begin to live with a different kind of confidence. You no longer crumble under pressure because you understand that resistance is part of progress. You begin to welcome challenges because they reveal your hidden strength. Instead of asking for an easy path, you ask for the strength to walk the difficult one. And in that moment, you unlock a deeper power, the power to shape yourself through every experience life throws your way. For Nietzsche, this is the essence of greatness. To face existence with open eyes, to embrace both joy and suffering as necessary, and to keep creating meaning even in the face of chaos. Struggle, then, is not your enemy. It is your greatest ally. It is the sculptor of your character and the source of your power. When you learn to see pain not as an obstacle but as a teacher, you transform your entire relationship with life. You stop surviving and start truly living. Understanding Nietzsche's will to power is one thing, but living it, that's where transformation truly begins. Nietzsche didn't write for philosophers sitting in libraries. He wrote for the ones willing to live with intensity, to test their strength in the fire of daily life. The will to power isn't just an idea. It's a force, a living energy inside you that can shape your destiny if you learn to direct it. True power doesn't lie in controlling others. It lies in mastering yourself. Most people drift through life reacting to emotions, to people, to circumstances. Nietzsche called this spiritual laziness a symptom of weak will. The strong, he believed, live intentionally. They don't wait for motivation. They create it. Each moment, each thought, each choice becomes a test of strength. The will to power begins when you stop being a victim of life and start becoming its sculptor. Self-mastery starts with awareness. Every reaction, every impulse is an opportunity to assert control. When you feel anger, pause and observe it. When you feel fear, lean into it. Nietzsche saw emotions not as enemies, but as raw material. Forces that, if understood, can be transformed. Anger can become determination. Fear can become courage. Desire can become creativity. The weak suppress their instincts. The strong shape them into purpose. To live by the will to power means taking radical responsibility for your inner world. Stop blaming circumstances for your emotions. Stop waiting for others to validate your worth. Every time you choose action over complaint, you expand your power. Nietzsche wrote, "He who cannot command himself will be commanded." That is the essence of mastery. To rule your own mind before the world rules it for you. Discipline, then, is not about restriction. It's about liberation. When you control your focus, your energy, and your habits, you become untouchable. The one who conquers their impulses gains more power than the one who conquers nations. Nietzsche believed the greatest freedom isn't to doing whatever you want. It is having the strength to do what is necessary, even when you don't want to. Applying this in daily life doesn't require grand gestures. It is in the small moments, waking up early when comfort whispers 5 more minutes, choosing focus when distraction calls, speaking truth when silence is easier. These choices, stacked day after day, forge an unbreakable will. You begin to act with purpose rather than impulse, and that's when life begins to bend in your favor. Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch, or higher self, isn't about becoming superhuman. It's about becoming self-directed. The Übermensch lives by inner law, not external approval. He doesn't ask, "What will people think?" He asks, "What do I want to become?" When you live this way, you no longer seek validation. You generate it from within. Your success stops being measured by applause and starts being measured by growth. Another key to mastery is solitude. In silence, your thoughts reveal who you are. Most people fear solitude because it exposes their inner chaos. But Nietzsche saw solitude as the forge of greatness. It's in solitude that you learn to think independently, to hear your own voice above the noise of society. Spend time alone, not to escape the world, but to rebuild your strength for it. Every moment of solitude refines your purpose and clears your mind of weakness. Nietzsche warned that without self-mastery, people fall into herd mentality again, living by borrowed values, repeating opinions instead of forming their own. But once you master your will, no ideology, no person, no trend can control you. You stop living reactively and start creating reality. You become the cause, not the effect. The will to power in everyday life is about transformation through choice. When you face frustration, use it as fuel. When you face rejection, learn from it. When fear appears, step toward it instead of away. Every obstacle becomes an invitation to strengthen your will. The more you act with intention, the stronger your inner command grows. Soon, challenges no longer weaken you. They awaken you. Living this way changes how you see success. Instead of chasing comfort or applause, you seek meaning. You realize that real victory isn't in avoiding pain, but in using it. You learn that progress isn't always visible. Sometimes it's silent, happening deep within your discipline and your mindset. That quiet transformation, Nietzsche would say, is the birth of true power. Ultimately, the will to power is about becoming your own master. When you stop waiting for permission and start taking control of your thoughts, emotions, and actions, you discover a strength that doesn't depend on anyone else. You stop being tossed around by circumstance because you carry stability within you. Even in chaos, you act with clarity. Even in fear, you move with courage. Even in uncertainty, you remain grounded. This is Nietzsche's challenge to every human being. Don't just survive, create. Don't just exist, become. Life isn't about comfort, it's about conquest, not of others, but of yourself. When you master your mind, you master your destiny. When you command your emotions, you command your world. And that's the ultimate expression of the will to power. To live with such purpose, such focus, and such strength that everything you touch becomes a reflection of your will. Not because life was easy, but because you refused to remain weak. You faced your fears, transformed your pain, and forged yourself into something greater. That's the power Nietzsche wanted you to find. Not in books, not in theories, but in your daily choices, your discipline, and your unshakable will to become more than you were yesterday. In the end, Nietzsche's message is simple. Your mind holds more power than you imagine. Life will test you, but every struggle is a chance to rise higher. Don't run from pain. Don't wait for permission. Create, evolve, and become your strongest self. If this message inspired you, then make sure to like the video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe for more deep explorations into the power of the human mind.